Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. I'm your host, Dorothy Odell. I'm the owner and founder of Unstoppable Overcomers Productions, where we are a full-service media agency. And tonight, I have the privilege of having two amazing ladies on the show, talking about a topic that ladies think that affects millions of women each year, and we all feel that we're alone in it, and most of the time. So, with that, I will bring Carla and Caroline to the show. Welcome.
Well, hello. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm excited to know more about you ladies. I know Carla a little bit more than I know Carolyn, but that's okay. By the end of it, we'll all be family by the end of the show. So, Carolyn, why don't you go first? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what it is that you do.
Sure. Yeah. Carolyn Eagen. I'm the founder and CEO of KenStack. KenStack is private cloud storage for families that I started a few years ago when I had data scattered everywhere. I have two kids, and growing up, I didn't have a lot of information about my parents, or because I'm adopted, and just growing up, I didn't know about anybody really. So I wanted a way to be able to have the story and legacy for my children. And my background is in data and analytics, and so I'm building something for myself. I might as well build it for other people. We are now at a point where it's a digital asset manager for small businesses too, because we found that there's a good niche there. And we're starting to develop a digital agent where you can like talk to your database and your videos and things like that. So it's really interesting, and super happy to be here. I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm in data and analytics, and work really hard. And this subject matter that we're going to be talking about today is very real. And I'm in the thick of it right now. So happy to share what I'm going through, and we're not alone. So, and it feels like I am sometimes. So I'm really thankful that you've invited me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here. And yes, tonight we're talking about perimenopause and menopause. And I'm with you. I'm in the middle of it myself. Or yeah. I say my body is in the middle of it. I am not, because I'm trying to disassociate myself with it. So Carla, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Carla Archer. I'm your online business guide, and I help people with growth on social media and leadership. I found myself a number of years ago in my business looking at social media going, this is what I got. It's a do or die situation. I'm coming to social media and I don't know a lot about it. And I thought there's got to be other people out there like me. So I help to support you with your mindset, your tools, and other business and leadership solutions for supporting you as you build and grow on social media. And I too am with you ladies in the thick of it all, and really discovering, how can I continue to manage and support my business? Because I was feeling tired, some brain fog, not really loving people as much as I used to. And I thought this is going to be a problem for me. So I've been on the path of discovering different ways to help to support me, my body, and my mind as I continue to build and grow my business. So thank you for bringing a voice to this conversation, Dorothy. Yeah. Lovely to be here with you, Carolyn.
Absolutely. It's funny when you said about the memory piece, because I can remember certain things, and then there's certain things lately that I have not been able to remember, and conversations, and they're like, well, don't you remember we had that conversation like 6 months ago? No, I don't. It didn't happen in my world, but so anyways, I'm glad I'm not the only one with that. What would you say would be some of the symptoms that you ladies have experienced? And how long has it been going on for you?
I have like a list.
How long do we have?
I'm a planner. I have like the whole like timeline of everything that I've experienced. So I can, okay.
I'll go first.
Go ahead. Right. So the symptoms are literally every single one that is on the list, from brain fog to irregularity, sleeplessness, sweats, like everything. So it started, and I didn't know it started. I wasn't aware that it started in my mid 30s, early 40s, but looking back, I'm like, it's so obvious. Right. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know. I just thought I was just like overwhelmed. I had two I have my company and I have a corporate job and I have 2 kids and my husband, and we're just managing all of these things. I just felt like that's just the way it is. And it's not really, right? At the end of the day, when I look back, I'm like, it didn't have to be that way. But going to doctors and things like that, for my just general doctor, general practitioner, GP, which I've never had a solid, stable one. But what I have had is a solid, stable, like for years, is my OBGYN. And there hasn't been a lot of tests, really. It's just been a more of where, like, where are you at with your period? It's really been period based, right? Like, how often is it here? Is it irregular? So I have an app, and I've had this app that I've tracked my period for a long time, probably 10 years now. So I have all that data, and it's very clear that it's like, going through the irregularities. But what it doesn't track is my sleeping. And then what's come to me now, like in the past, I'd say 6 months, has been sleeping. And then this irregular sleeping where I can't get to bed until 3. And then I wake up at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, one of those time frames. I find myself in meetings too, like struggling to find a word, like very simple word, like amazing or something. I'm like, what's that word? I forgot how to say it, and then I just try to find another word instead of amazing. I try to find fantastic. And it's just, it's frustrating. I'm like, what is going on? I'm a pretty articulate person. I can't figure out how to say amazing. That's weird. But it's not when you do the research. So I'm done a lot of research, and what I'm doing right now is testing myself and getting some benchmarks of my own hormone levels, and I'm learning about those. And also my glucose levels are being affected by my hormone levels as well. And then I've taken the genetic tests too, to know what I'm predisposed of, some of the genetic pieces too. So if I shrunk it down to, I have symptoms, I've gone to a doctor and they said, well, you could take birth control and this other thing and it's just that approach, from what I've researched too, is older research. Like even the medical research that's out there isn't even up to date, right? Like there's not a lot of women's research. They just started doing it. So we have probably about 20 years of data now that our children, or our age and younger, are going to have a lot of access and knowledge about and be able to experience different things than we do. But it's these kind of conversations that help everybody learn what's out there. So I have some lists and I'll get to it, but I want to give Carla some time to talk to, because I could just keep going. But like the different tests I've taken, the different therapy that I'm taking, from the hormonal therapy to the GLP-1, which is very interesting too. We know it as something different, but it does a lot of different things as well. And my cholesterol level being affected by it too. So it's not just symptoms of heat flashes or brain fog or tiredness. Like those are all real, right? And then our period's going away. Or are they staying? Are they going? This weird stuff that it does. But it's really about the internal things that it does with our heart disease, diabetes, pre-diabetes, all these things that that have been measured within men, and they have different therapies for testosterone. It's all in line. I mean, it really is similar. Just we have different variances of these hormones, from what I'm understanding. But so yeah, I still have all the symptoms. I'm just learning what to do.
Right. And Carla, what about yourself?
Well, I agree. We have always been on a hormonal journey as women, and I started to really notice a few years ago that was starting to shift. It was sort of reminiscent of when I first started my cycle, and I jokingly say to my husband, she's back, because I said, here's what's happening internally. I feel like I'm managing a very angry upset 13-year-old who is happy one minute and not the next. So I knew that I was having those big swings and fluctuation of emotions, and just how my tolerance and those spikes of hormones that were changing that. So I thought, I'm really going to verbalize this with him so he understands. And I said, I'm doing my best to manage her, but some days she gets a little out of hand. So please give me some grace and space on this one. And you're so right. Physically, I love when I see reels and different things like that, and they're explaining, I mean, at any given moment, I could feel like I'm having a stroke, a heart attack. I've got the early onsets of Alzheimer's, my cholesterol, my blood pressure is high, my bones ache, something's happening. And it's all I'm learning more and more of this menopausal journey. And sometimes it feels like a big, sad joke in a lot of respects, that not only have we lived with what is involved with the hormones month to month to month, but at the end, this is what's happening, is that suddenly it's like they're having a giant tequila party in my body. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So, becoming aware of what is happening. And I really love it. Thank you again, Dorothy, for this conversation, because normalizing this. I was saying before we got on screen, for our generation, it's becoming more mainstream to be able to have this conversation, and there's more information available to us to look at. So we don't have to feel like we're bad, or we're losing our marbles, or that, we're sick, or all of these different things that, maybe we could feel like we're being pigeonholed in society because we're attempting to be normal, feel normal, look normal on the outside. Meanwhile, we have all this chaos and change going on in us, which is really normal and natural. So I'm so happy to be in a time and space where we can say, hey, look, like, this is what's going on for us. We're doing our best to manage. And I really started to notice, like I mentioned when I introduced myself, for the brain fog, and just feeling a little less energized and enthusiastic about my business. And as an online social media marketer, so much of the driving force of my business is reliant on my energy. I'm a big believer of energy attracts energy. And I knew as my energy and my mood was going down, this was really going to have a big impact on my business. And that's when I really started to look at, what can I do? I'm aware. I think awareness is the biggest thing, to know that it's going on. So then you can make some decisions about, okay, now, well, what are our next steps? What are our options?
Right. I love that. And it's funny because I can identify with you, Carolyn, when you said that you couldn't think of a word that was so simple. I literally struggled for a year, and I just clicked till you said it, that was part of the symptoms. I went to my doctor. I was on birth control for way too long and didn't realize that it was something that I should not have done. However, I really contribute a lot of my help from my holistic doctor, Dr. Christy Matuziak out of Illinois. So if you need a holistic doctor, let me know. She's amazing. And yes, I'm here in Canada, so it doesn't matter where you're at. She's wonderful. But I went to my regular MD, and she was just like, oh, well, that's just menopause. Just suck it up. Like, there's nothing we can do. Until I was like, well, wait a minute. So I went in with a laundry list the last time. I said, there's brain fog. I was asking my girlfriends if they thought I had ADHD. She goes, why do you think that? I said, because my brain is so scattered. I can't put two thoughts together. I was literally like, feeling like I was going insane. My energy tanked. I still don't have the get up and go that I historically would have had. I get that I've been through a grief period in my life. I just recently lost my last remaining grandparent in February, but it's been like a 5-year journey with her being her power of attorney. So that was draining. I work full time. I do 3 shows. I just figured I was just tired because of all the extra things that I do. But I'm really, the more I'm listening, the more I'm being aware of it. And you can't go by a period with me because I don't think I've officially had one. Well, I don't count spotting as a period, but doctors do. So really, I haven't had a normal cycle in about 4 years, but yet they won't say I'm officially in menopause either. And they even really acknowledge the fact that it was perimenopause either. So
Right.
I'm just beyond frustrated with the medical system that that I have here in Windsor. And so now that I've done I'm doing a little bit of research. I'm not one historically that will do a lot of research. I just assume the doctors know what they're talking about. But in their defense, they had maybe 4 hours of training
Right. That's
in
absolutely right.
in their entire practice. So
Right.
you really can't blame them either.
Nope.
And my gynecologists, I haven't seen them. Oh my God. They put me on birth control back when I was 11, and I haven't really seen them since. So it's like they just did a disappearing act on me. So it's for me, it's been like, because, well, being on the birth control for as long as I did was not great for my body, which has probably completely wrecked the hormones. Let's face it.
Yeah.
So now I'm back to balancing them and things like that. So when I really want, there's one of my viewers here, Jeffrey, male, is the one that's stepping in with this.
Mhm.
Such an important topic, very misunderstood, and unfortunately looked as something women just go through. Also, the medical community doesn't just pay enough attention to hormones and what we can use that is currently on the market, might be on the market, but insurance won't cover it. 100%. Like, I didn't have to, but I got 3 months worth of supplements, and the amount that I had to pay was crazy just to see if it would work.
Yeah.
And which was not covered by my medical and here in Canada, you can't use that as a medical expense on your taxes, because trust me, I looked with the amount of money I spend on vitamins per year. I was just like, come on now. It should be covered somewhere, but it isn't. So thank you, Jeff, for that shout out. And hopefully your wife listens to this too. He's one of my veterans. He's a great guy. He's actually in Florida right now.
That's
with his
awesome.
job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
So, oh, hold on. You're right. What it does to the body. Well, absolutely. Right. It's absolutely crazy. And what I find is, you can go to your doctor or your MD, and because I told her in my early to mid 30s that I thought something was going on, and they absolutely denied it. So you're too young. You're too young for that.
Yeah.
I went in at 40. You're too young for that. Really? Tell my body that.
Well, I agree with you where you were saying that, as a general practitioner, because I work in some health and wellness spaces, oftentimes we look at a GP and we think, oh, well, they should know everything. But you're exactly right. There's so much to know. It's impossible for them to. And so when people would say to me, well, my doctor didn't say anything about that, or how come my doctor doesn't know about that? I'd say, well, understandably, the person is seeing patients the majority of the time of the day. I don't know how big a window they have to learn about new things and new products, technologies that are on the markets, and they don't. And so I think that this is really important for us to be able to share with women to be their own advocates. And I'm not saying anything against the medical system at all. I'm just saying that it's going to be a requirement for us to step into the role as an advocate for ourselves as we go through these processes and do some discovery on how can we support ourselves, or to make sure that we have a strong enough voice if we feel like there's something going on here and I would like some solutions. And if you can't help me, then let's find somebody who can.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep. Yep.
Did you want to chime in on that, Carolyn?
Yeah, but I wanted to go back to just point out like a just like Godsmack moment when you said that you thought you had ADHD. I'm like, that word and everything has just like come up a lot recently in our household. And I just didn't put 2 and 2 together. So that's very interesting too. Like, that's not necessarily like a symptom that you would hear about, like, oh, and you don't want to say scatterbrain because all these things don't have any positive connotation behind it. None of them are like, oh, I'm in my prime, but we have so much wisdom. We have so much that at this point in our life, I feel like I haven't been more empowered than I ever have been, but also feel a little like untangled, like it's coming unraveled inside a little bit. And I just necessarily don't want to stop it. I just want to try to understand and then put some gates, some rails around it, right? Like, what can I do to get a better night's sleep? Because I know it'll impact my longevity and my quality of life, right? Like, the sitting thing in our work life, like I think I've overcome that. Got a dog, have to walk it a couple times a day, all good there. But the sleep thing is really, really, I don't know how to fix that. But that's just if I were to say the biggest thing I would want to overcome is that. But I think the doctor piece, the best I'm going to do is come to them, to my OBGYN. I have a meeting with her in June with my list of, here are the tests that I've taken. Here are the things that I've done. This is what I know, and share it with them and get their feedback. This particular doctor, she's Dr. Pollender here in the Tampa Bay area at the women's group. She's very, very open to feedback of data, right? And being a data person, that's what I come with. So I have a period tracker that I have. I also started what is it? Winona. Winona is like it's a hormonal cream. It's like a compound cream, and then the DHEA. But they did a questionnaire and they didn't do a blood test of hormones. So I was like, how do they know? How do they know from a questionnaire what I need? And it's personalized. So I'm not buying it 100%, but I've been on it. And it has helped with the sweats but not everything, right? It's made some like less. And then the ones that are less now, the other ones that I didn't have, like the sleeping and the ADHD kind of like craziness in my head or whatever, is more pronounced now, right? Because it's not so overshadowed by the other things. I also am tracking my blood levels on my arm, not because of anything else other than to get some standardization of what's going on inside me. And then also there's something called PROOV. I just signed up for that. And it's like a test over the next 4 weeks to do a benchmark of my hormone levels. And I think that if I were to give my daughter advice when she gets to be this age, is get a benchmark, right? Go get your blood test for your hormones, do an at-home test, bring some of that data to your doctor and start that, like, where are you at now? And what are because I don't know what these 4 things that this hormonal level means. I don't know what the FSH or the E1G or the PDG or the LH1 is, but those are the things that are being tested from a hormonal level for your progesterone and those other things, right? So I'm literally just like learning about all these things, and I want their feedback. And it might be new to them too. They might be like, I don't know either. Or they might be able to tell me more about these 4 things that this is going to measure over the next 4 weeks to figure it out. But what's also interesting is I'm on these, like the hormone cream and the DHEA, which is like, I just think a supplement you can get over the counter. I don't know much about that either, but nonetheless, it's not the birth control option, right? Is that the hormone level, that first benchmark, it's really low on everything still. So I'm like, holy moly. Like, if I'm really low on these things that are supposed to be within a certain range that I don't know much about, what would it be without this? I don't even know. Like, maybe it'd be more, maybe less. I don't really know. So I do need to take this data to the doctor so that they can give me the feedback. And that's what I plan to do. Happy to do follow-up and, tell you what happens with those. But those are the things that and I can go into the GLP-1 thing as well. Because I put on weight by just sitting, like doing nothing, like nothing different, like 10, 20 pounds just for, right?
Hormones.
But yes, it very much is all of that. And so
I hear you with that. I put on 30 pounds just I would say recently, because of all of this. Like, and I'm not, yes, I have a sedentary job, but when I'm at home, it's, like I'm always walking on my lunch hour. That's why you see me do walking videos a lot, right? Because that's what I'm doing. And so I'm at the gym at least 3 times a week. If I'm not at the gym, then I'm walking, or even at work when I'm getting coffee, I'm doing now wall crunches and squats. And so the guy says to me today, he says, "So how many squats or wall crunches does it take for the coffee machine to go?" I said, 20 wall crunches. And then he goes, "Okay." I said, "And then you got to do 20 squats to offset the wall crunches. So I can get like 100 wall squats and crunches done." And I see, I feel it toning a little bit in the shower, but I'm just like, I don't know. It's frustrating. Of course, it's funny because 3 years ago I started with heart palpitations. I was driving down the highway to my mom's house, and I thought I was going to black out. I seriously thought, it scared me enough, and it takes a lot to scare me. But I come from a background of not heart healthy people. Let's just put it that way, on both sides, mom and dad. So and they took it seriously because I've had aunts and uncles die in their 50s. The last, my grandmother on like my mom's mom just passed away at 91, and I have a great grandmother that lived to 92 on the Graham side. But other than that, no one lived past 74. My dad passed at 69. So it's really, it's the history was there. So the doctor sent me, my main doctor was on mat leave. So the male doctor stepped in and said, "Oh, you need to go to the heart specialist right away. I'm sending you right away." Did all the tests. Everything's fine. Your cholesterol's high though. Your cholesterol's high. Triglycerides are high. I'm sending you to a dietitian. Just lose weight. Don't take anything into consideration about like the fact that I'm going through menopause, or and it's really frustrating, and you just want to tell them off, because I don't know about you, but I've spent my entire life with one dietitian or another. This one is actually pretty good. I conceded to seeing one more, and she's an intuitive dietitian, and she's all about intuitive eating. So I'm still learning more about that. Every time I get into her office, though, we talk too much. And so I don't learn a lot. I just tell her what's wrong. And so she says, "You realize you have an eating disorder." Okay. So I learned at 48 that I have an eating disorder. And no one said anything the entire time growing up. So not only is it perimenopause, I have an eating disorder. And, I'm just supposed to give myself grace on top of being power of attorney, and I just want, some days I want to either curl up in a ball and cry or smack somebody. So I'm not really sure, and at any given moment it can be a combination of both.
So it's interesting that Carolyn is an analytic, because I'm an analytically minded person, and as a former fitness instructor, I've always noticed weight on my body. When there's a little bit, I exercise regularly. I don't run. I do body resistance and stuff like that. At this point in time in my life, I've been learning a lot about the fact that our bodies change, and the type of exercise that we do needs to be appropriate for, what our body actually needs. But I'm more of how do I feel? And so I consult the doctors for benchmarks, like you indicated, but it's really based on how am I feeling? How are my clothes fitting? How's my mind feeling? And so I approach things from a more holistic perspective. And you're right, Dorothy, there's a lot of different things out there that a person can try, supplements and different things like that. And that's kind of what we need to do is, try some different things. So I'm fortunate that I have found something that has really been able to support me, because the weight was on there. You feel the bloating and the puffiness and like your pants not feeling great. And just with some simple ways to really provide your body with the nutrients that it needs, that's no longer been an issue for me. So I work out, and I'm less focused on I exercise still, because I believe in that. But I find that I'm not struggling with my weight, with the moodiness, with the brain fog, and all of those different things, just by supporting my body with some of the right nutrients that it seems to need. Now, we're all different, of course, but I know doing that has made a huge difference for me. and has really been able to save my business and to be able to, support my relationships, so that I'm not going through every day feeling the tax of the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. So, I encourage you to keep looking for solutions, do different things, do your research, and be self-supportive as much as possible. Again, I'm not saying don't go to a doctor, because I think there's a time and a place for that, certainly. But I know that by exploring some of the more holistic approaches, that I've been able to get some great resolution with a lot of my symptoms. And I'm grateful every day that I put it out to the universe, that I was like, I need some help. And I had a friend show up and say to me, hey, this might be able to help you. And I was like, I'm very skeptical. I'm analytic. I need to know. I'm a greenie brain. So I'm like, I need to do all the research first and see everything. But ultimately it came down to how I was feeling, and just how I've been able to continue to feel better. And I don't think I'm feeling the impacts of what's going on as much, because my body's being supported the right way. So I just encourage people to keep looking and find a solution for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, you really don't realize that it's part of that problem, because you just think, oh, I don't know about you, but I thought I was going crazy at one point. I really did. And then and I can't go by my mom, because my mom ended up having to have a full hysterectomy at 40 due to some complications that she was having. And then my grandmother, when she gave birth to my uncle, ended up having to have an emergency hysterectomy because she was bleeding out. So it's really, I don't have any benchmarkers, because my holistic doctor says, well, what was your mom and what was your grandma like? I'm by myself here. I still have my uterus and I still have all the lady parts. And so I'm the only one in my family that still does. And I don't think that's helping me though. Jeff says here, the mental health aspect of this is difficult as well. The frustration, moods, maybe even self recrimination can take a toll. One of you fantastic ladies said it earlier, we have to normalize this. Absolutely. Yes. And, that's the mental health aspect of it. It's just like, normally I'm a happy-go-lucky person, but lately, and I haven't asked my husband, I'm afraid to ask him the question, if he thinks I'm psychotic. And I'm sure he'll say at times. But
like I said, I'd say she's back. Brace yourself.
But yeah,
I think my husband would probably definitely support all of those comments, but I think he is also going through things too, right? Like men go through their own
is it like a pseudo menopause, or makes you wonder?
I want to give it a name too.
Jeff, if you're still listening, I would like to know if you are going through some symptoms of what we've been talking about. I would love to hear that from a male's perspective. Thank you, Carolyn, for putting that in.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like, and I one day I had to say to my husband, like, I'm sorry, but I'm just going through too much. And I just can't do it all myself, because as a woman, I used to take on everything.
Right.
Like, I grew up where my grandmother would say, you got to take care of your man, right? And so you got to do everything. She never had to have a job outside of the home. She was a homemaker. So she was good for you. She was able to do that. But in this day and age, it takes both of us working to make ends meet. So that being said, I am doing what I have to do. And so I forget where I was going with that, but
I really like that you're moving the conversation towards our partnership, like, our spouses. And I think that's probably one of the things that has supported us the most as well, is having some open dialogue around it, having some discussion, some education about what does go on. And me being able to say, hey, you know what, like the other day I said, so I'm feeling a little bit like this today. So today might be a little bit more of a sensitive day for me. So I may need a little bit more consideration, and actually being able to ask. So I think that's easier if you have spouses, if you have kids in the home, to, bring everybody into the circle of what's actually going on, so that they're not on pins and needles or kind of like on edge watching like what's going to happen today and wondering what's going on for you. Because
Right.
I deal a lot in the world of energy too. And, energy meets energy. So if your energy is feeling a little chaotic, everybody else is sensing that too. And again, it brings in that conversation of normalizing what's going on, so that if you do have children, they're seeing, oh, okay, this is going on for mom. Is she unwell? Is she sick? Is she crazy? What, all those things, so that they know, whether it be it boys or girls, how to support themselves, their spouses or partners going forward as well, that they go, okay, well, we understand this is part of the normal human female process. Like
Right.
this is what happens.
Yeah. And we're just scratching the surface of the knowledge around it too. Right. And, so I have 2 teenagers in the household. I have a girl and a boy, one's 16 and one's 14. And so I feel like, okay, now that I'm saying this all out loud, I'm like, holy moly, we're just a big hormonal soup here, with what I'm going through, these changes. She's going through puberty. He's going through puberty. My husband's going through his change of life. I'm going through mine. And this is what I've learned too, since having kids, is once I feel like, okay, I got this phase, I got this, they go into another phase. And that's where I found myself too. So, I mean, looking back, because again, my mom passed away my adopted mother passed away when I was younger, and I didn't know much about my family genetically. So and my adopted mother did not talk about any of this. And she had a hysterectomy, and hence why she adopted as well, because she couldn't have her and my father adopted family couldn't have children because she had a hysterectomy in her early 30s. So she adopted myself and my adopted sister. And so growing up, we didn't talk about any of this. And it was probably because of age. It was probably because she was older too. Also part of being Catholic as well, probably a lot of that as well. But we just never talked about it. Like, I literally learned about my period through a conversation that my girlfriend was having with one of our friends. Like, I was like, what? That's how that's how I learned how about tampons. Like, it was just the most bizarre stuff. So now, and that's also a reason why I started the company I have new, because I want the data, and I want the pictures, I want the memories, I want all of these things in these stories. And menopause is right there in medical information. I'd say mental health, but that has a negative connotation behind it too. I'd say mindset, right? Our mindset, to be able to say where it's our mindset and what's our family going through now. And then 20 years from now, my great grandchildren, or 2 generations from now, when I'm long gone off this planet, they'll be able to go back into our database and say, what was their experience with menopause, or what was their experience with their grades in English. Like, all these things have to do with your place and time of where you're at, either medically or relationship wise, right? And that's the kind of data story that I want my kids to have. So, like, literally all my data points from medical piece are going into my cloud storage as well. So at any given time, they can have this data outside of just like the 23andMe or the ancestries kind of thing. They can have their full family history at their fingertips. And how powerful is that, right? Like,
That is powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful to be able to have not just what your grandparents looked like, where is their heritage from, but what was their A1C when they were 45, right? And you have this amount of their genes. So there's just a lot of things that can happen from a stem cell therapy when they're older. When my kids were born, I had the stem cell blood taken from the umbilical. So they have these therapies that can happen in the future, depending on how technology can move forward, and it is moving forward. That's why I'm really excited about some of these ways we can track, like just a simple spit test, pee test, blood test, between those 3 things with your doctor, getting some benchmarks and going, okay, what is really the best hormonal compound for you versus this kind of generic 50 compound that I have that I just threw across my desk accidentally. But like this, like 50 kind of stuff you rub on, I'm like, is that right for me? is it right for 75% of the population? And that's the interesting thing too, is that doctors and historically have done the birth control and the progesterone, and it's helped 50%. This is like some of the research. It's been only effective for 50%, but that's a good number because it doesn't have a negative connotation. Like, it doesn't have a poor impact, but it can help 50%. So they do a blanket treatment, but it only helps 50% of the women population that is. And then it's also really risky for some with certain kind of blood type. So these are the things that we want to say, okay, well, do we want to have a heart attack in 10 years, or do we want to be less symptoms, right? And that's a small portion of that. But then again, if we're going to take this medicine and it's not going to really impact us, half of us, it's not going to impact us. Why would we take it? You know,
Exactly.
I don't know. So
and that's where the holistic approach comes in too. I mean, there's definitely a time and a place for medications, but medication isn't always the solution here, because there's a lot of natural ways that you can help to balance your hormones, so that you don't have to have those deep-rooted concerns. And again, there's going to be times where somebody does require that, but it's not a one and done. Like you were saying, 50%, oh, that sounds like a great number, but there's 50% that it wasn't successful for. And what are the side effects, you know, of what you're doing? So, you know, it does require a lot of, again, self-advocating, self-education. But then there's so much information that we don't want to be doctoring ourselves. So, you know, I'm an advocate of, you know what, ask my friends what's been working for you, do a little bit of investigation, see how I feel. It goes back to how am I feeling? Am I noticing differences? I get my blood tested regularly, you know, because I was like you, having the heart palpitations, and I thought, oh, your cholesterol is high. I said, well, give me some time and I'll come back and check my blood work and see, because I'm not going on medication right away. I need a little bit of, I'm working with something. Let's see if there's a difference. So I don't know. That's just my approach, is that I'm like, how do I feel?
Yeah.
What are my alternatives? I want to be smart about it. And so kind of a balance between the medical system and a holistic approach.
Right. I love that. Jeffrey did answer here. He goes, interesting concept. I think the husband can very much go through this in some way, kind of like during pregnancy. And then he also stated, I think it also has to do with how much the partner is attuned to the individual experiencing it. Level of connection and empathy have a lot to do with it. 100%. 100%. And unfortunately, our partner cannot read our minds, which I know is shocking. And I wish that he could. Because there are times that I'm not so great at communicating. Wow.
You really wish. I'm just joking.
Most of the time, yeah.
We can't all be forgetting our words at the same time.
That's true. Then he would really know everything, wouldn't he? But, you know, unless we tell them what we're going through, like you said, Carla, like you were very good at explaining to your husband, hey, she's back. And, you know, I just need a little bit extra grace today. And I don't know about you. Sometimes I don't even think there's anything wrong until you're ready to just choke somebody out. And to be fair, I have never in my life choked anybody out or smacked anybody. That doesn't mean that I don't have visions of it.
I have a whole new appreciation for this whole smash room thing that's going on, and you know, going, oh, you know, this could be something perhaps for a menopausal woman, and you know, and I think it's about our awareness. Because when we start to notice that, okay, and like you said, sometimes we're in the heat of the moment where we're catching on to what's actually happening. But when we become aware of that, then the next time we may catch it just a little bit sooner. That's what I've been noticing with myself, because sometimes when I was getting away on me, I was like, oh, now in reflection, I can see what was happening. So now I'm trying to be a little bit more aware all the time of, oh, I feel like this is coming on. Oh, this reminds me of last time. I think that this is probably going to happen. And when we can start to do that with ourselves, then we can start to make those adjustments, have the conversations ahead of time as best as we can, and just really let people know, like, we're doing our best. We're aware. We're doing our best. Every day is a little different in how this shows up, reacts, and behaves. And so what else can we do, really?
Exactly. Okay, so hold on a minute. The lady that I was talking about, my holistic doctor, actually put in a comment here. And Dr. Christy, I just sent you a link that if you wanted to come on and share your expertise, I sent it to you in your Facebook Messenger. So if you want to come on, no pressure. If you're at work, she could be at work with patients, but I just want to put her on if she wants to. Interesting how that you're talking about high cholesterol during this time, because cholesterol is the raw material for all hormones, sex and stress hormones. So to her, it's normal for the body to unregulate production during menopause to help support production. Well,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
I've heard that too.
That is okay. So it wasn't her, but my heart doc specialist was all crazy about my cholesterol, even though after I went to the dietitian, I lowered my LDL. Like that's the lousy one. And so I don't think I've shared with her. I don't think I've gotten blood work since I shared with her and retried some other stuff. So that is crazy. But if you want to come on, Dr. Christy, we'd be more than happy to have you.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. So
That's
the cholesterol, yeah. So during
raw
So
material.
that goes back to advocating for yourself in a sense. And by knowing this, it doesn't mean that you don't get tested and watch it and monitor it. It just means that this is a natural part of what happens during menopause, right? So to be aware. But her first thing was, do you want me to write you a prescription? And I was like, hold on a second, let's evaluate what is going on. What does this look like? What are the numbers? Which cholesterol is out of whack? What other alternatives do we have? What else do we need to look at to evaluate before we make some decisions? And I feel fortunate and blessed. And you're both talking about your mothers. My mom's a nurse, and she's energy healer, and so she's always been there for us to sort of teach us about what's going on for our bodies and different ways to look at, approaches and whatnot that we can do. And what a gift truly it is to me, and particularly hearing your stories that you lost your mothers and hysterectomies and all of those different things. So I think that this conversation we're having today is even that much more impactful for me, because you realize that there's so many women who have different stories in their support and how they grew up in this conversation.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is the amazing Dr. Christy Matusiak. She is a holistic chiropractor from the Illinois area. Let's put it that way. So welcome, Dr. Christy. And so I loved your comment, and that's why I wanted you to come on to share your insights.
Well, and it's funny because I literally was just at a hormone seminar this past weekend for all female hormones from menarche to menopause. And so it's such an interesting conversation. And when you've kept asking Dorothy about, who wants to come on and do a show with me about menopause and hormones and this and that and share their experience and their expertise, it's frustrating to me because I still don't feel like an expert. I've done so much studying in this, and I've taken seminar after seminar after seminar, and I work with people every single day. And the more I research and learn about hormones, the more I realize we don't know shit about hormones, because there's still so much to learn. It's a giant abyss of never-ending knowledge. So thank you for offering me an opportunity to come on here anyway, even though I don't consider myself an expert. I just work with it a lot, and I'm learning new things every day.
Well, absolutely. And, it's like we've talked about off air before. It's just like doctors have a practice because it's what is good for me is not going to work for everybody. So it's like they have to try and figure it out. And I think as a patient, it's the most frustrating thing to hear. And I'm sure as a doctor, it's the most frustrating thing to say, because, they think, that, hey, they should know it all, but they can't know it all. And so I appreciate that fact. And Dr. Christy's always there for me whenever I have a question. I'm just like, but what about this? But what about this? Right. And so she's definitely helped me in my holistic journey, because I didn't know anything about holistic medicine until I met this lady. And she's been amazing. So yes, go stalk her on Facebook.
I didn't even realize that hormones were like how much they have to influence other areas within our bodies, right? Like I just always thought hormones was around reproduction. And it's not. It regulates oxygen in your blood, it regulates glucose, your metabolism, right? Like I don't know. It's just it's not that we have to fix it, but like what's the right balance to be the best versions of ourselves in our life journey, right? Like when I'm 70, I don't want to be 30. I mean, for God's sake, I don't, but I would like to be the best, feel the best I can. And then, yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have anything to add to that, Dr. Christie?
I mean, I love what you just said, Carolyn, in the sense that I think you hit the nail on the head that menopause is a natural, normal process. And I think a lot of times, a lot of practitioners try to correct it like it's a disease. And it's like, oh, you have a hormone deficiency now. Well, no, this is a natural process that may need some support depending on what that woman's been through in her life. And I'm sorry for chiming in late, because I don't know if you guys have already talked about this at all, but the adrenal glands are so critical to making sure that a woman goes through that time more seamlessly, so to speak. And so if the adrenals aren't healthy, then it becomes much more difficult, much more challenging, and much much more near impossible to get through that without all the typical symptoms. In my world, it's like the way I talk to women and patients about it is the adrenals are the glands in the body that handle all the stress no matter where it comes from. And so when the ovary decide they want to retire, they say, hey, adrenals, can you please, take over production of these hormones? And if we haven't beaten them to death with a stick for the last 30 years, they'll be like, sure, we got this. You go ahead and retire. We can continue making the hormones. Most of the time and more often than not, the adrenals say, oh, sorry, we've been done to for years. We can't do this anymore. And then the woman starts going through these massive changes in all shapes and forms, many of which aren't even identifiable, like you said, as hormone related. And it's really about going into that time with healthy, strong adrenal glands, which in many women's cases just doesn't happen this day and age.
Is that cortisol? Does that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the adrenals make more hormones than just cortisol, but that's the biggest one that they're known for, of course.
And that's where I've been seeing the success, is because that's what I'm doing holistically, is managing my adrenal glands and managing my cortisol. So I think that's why I've been able to see like a significant difference in my mood swings, the brain fog, the weight gain, just all of the things that seem to come along with that. Because when I saw it coming, it was like a train coming down the tracks, and I knew I need to do something or this is done. This isn't going to be fun.
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad that you mentioned that piece. It just kind of brought the light bulb on. I'm like, oh yeah, the things that I'm doing are really working with the adrenals. So that's why and I really liked how you explained that, that your body's asking the other parts, hey, could you step up now? We've been working hard for a while. We're going to need you guys to take over for a while.
Right, exactly. And when the body parts are all failing at the same time, it's like, now what?
Yeah. So how do we boost our adrenals?
Oh, well, that's a whole other call, Dorothy.
I'd love to come back and help to talk on that one too.
Right, yeah, for real. I mean, there's so many different ideas. Of course, there's thousands of vitamins and herbs and supplements and things of that nature, but it comes down to managing stress, and whatever that looks like is different for each person, like whether that means, doing inner child work if you had a traumatic childhood, if that means, doing therapy, if that means meditating every day or making sure you're exercising within your appropriate parameters, getting enough sleep, drinking the water, addressing your nutrition, all of it and more.
It's like it's a full-time job in itself.
It really
It is, but it's fair because it impacts everything. It impacts your relationships. It impacts your business success. It impacts your wealth. It impacts everything, right? And it's funny because I don't want to say mental health, and because there's just so much. But what it is a mindset, right? Like, but all of
It
this
is your mental health, though,
changes your
because
mindset. It is your mental health.
yeah,
Like
it
at
is
the end
because
of the
your brain
day,
isn't getting the nutrition that it needs to support itself
yes,
through the process. So that to me
yeah,
says health. So I don't feel like there's any kind of negative
yeah,
connotation related to saying,
yeah.
because
yeah.
that's what it is.
It is. I remember like recently, I don't think it was this year, maybe it was 2024, and I don't remember like exactly what was going on, but I remember saying out loud to my husband, like my cortisol, I didn't do any measurement. I just remember saying out loud at one point, my cortisol is off the charts. This stress has to stop. I cannot sustain this amount of cortisol because I felt like everything was like an emergency and on fire all the time. And it really wasn't, I guess, but it felt like it. And that's probably because my hormones were like so out of whack to what you were talking about, Dr. Christie. Between that and the ADHD, like I haven't been diagnosed with that, but when you said that earlier, Dorothy, in the conversation, I'm like, yeah, like I feel like a little kind of all over the place sometimes, not all the time. And that my cortisol, I know when to take a walk now, right? Like I've got to do that. It doesn't fix it. I mean, 100%, but to manage it. And I think that's where some of our wisdom comes in too, right? Where we know, okay, I don't have to fix this and I can't fix this. So I'm just going to take a walk or let that kind of happen on its own and focus on what I can and want to focus on, right? It's choosing your focus to help with managing that stress. I still haven't gotten the secret sauce on the sleep thing yet, but because for
And
whatever reason, I'll get
and
to bed
that's
at 2 or 3 a.m.
yeah. Well, that's a whole other conversation too. But that's the interesting thing about cortisol is increased cortisol will mess up your sleep. But messed up sleep will mess up your cortisol. So then you're
Oh,
stuck
for
in
gosh
this
sake, it's the chicken and the egg.
It's like the
Yeah,
chicken
you're
and the
this
egg.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're
exactly. So
this
you have to
vicious
come at it
cycle.
from both sides in order to see progress and support. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And we're externally being bombarded all the time with our food, our water, EMFs, So now, like you were saying before, okay, you can do all these things. And it feels like in menopause, all those things are being taxed already. Plus, that we have all these outwardly forces that are, piling it on. And it's like, okay, somewhere in there, I got to figure out how to get out of here and help to support myself. So, yeah, that's a
So
lot.
how do you test for cortisol, and how do you know that your cortisol is high?
You want my answer? Or
I want your answer.
hijacked the show, so I'm not.
No, I want your answer.
There's multiple different ways of doing it. There's blood testing, saliva testing, and urine testing. Blood testing has a lot of disadvantages because you're not typically getting it free within the blood, which is where it actually has its impact in the body. I personally like saliva a lot, but there's a lot of people who like Dutch testing with the urine as well. I'm just not as familiar with that method yet. But Dutch urine testing and saliva testing are generally more of a gold standard for measuring cortisol. Because then you can also get it multiple times throughout the day, because in a blood test, you're getting one snapshot of one time of the day when cortisol spikes and falls throughout the day in a normal circadian rhythm.
Okay, Carolyn, you're Canadian. Where do we find the saliva test thing? Like, because Dr. Christie is not Canadian either. So I got to find out where we can do this in Canada.
find it
Oh,
online. I mean, I've got
yeah,
to be
I
able
was
to
going to
find things
say,
online.
yeah, there's got to be places that we can, naturopaths. We should just Google search it. I'm sure that we can, yeah,
They
find
usually
it.
come in like a little kit that
They come in,
accompanies
I was going to say, I
you
think you can get a
on
kit.
samples.
I'll have to
Another
research.
test I can take. This is
Yeah, there you go.
another
You got
data
some more
point,
data
right?
to put
Yeah.
into
Oh my
yours.
goodness.
It's just more information to add to the ever-growing
For
bucket.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, this has been
Cool.
enlightening. So that's now something that I'll have to make sure that we put in my chart. Great. See, it's always a double-edged sword when you invite your holistic doctor onto your show.
You're
'Cause
publicly
now she's
committed
gonna
now.
say,
Politely commenting and was just going to watch the rest of the show.
well, I couldn't let that comment go by with the cholesterol, but her and I are on the same page about my heart doctor. So her and I both think that my heart doctor is out of left field. So, and she's not said that. So she's not put any other doctor down, but she agrees with me that medicine shouldn't be the first thing. Controlling with diet and trying different things within the diet. And I actually lowered my cholesterol just in a couple weeks by just adding a couple foods to my diet, like not taking away anything, but just adding a couple of the right superfoods, which was oatmeal, avocado, olive oil, all things I had been using anyways, except for the oatmeal. The oatmeal I go in spurts, but I was back to eating that for breakfast. So yeah, just within a couple tweaks. Oh, eating more lentils, thanks to the dietitian. But yeah, throwing a can of lentils in the chili instead of just regular beans. But anyways, just some things that I have done, and it lowered it. But now I gotta get rid of some other shit. So that's just me.
Yeah. So things that we should have our kids learn in school, outside of financial literacy, which is added to their education here, is dietitian, like really nutrition, right? And I'm like an advocate for AI skills, right? But also understanding they're like benchmarking our children, like our kids, like my kids' pediatrician have done blood tests on our children, and they're like, oh, this level is, and I'm like, is it? But we didn't do these types of tests at 10, 11, 12, 13 years old when I was growing up. So who knows what they were then, right? We would think back, oh, kids, they can eat sugar, they can do this, but we never measured anything. So it's just so interesting that all the things that are at our resources and our, from what pediatricians and people are doing to be able to get some benchmarks and using genetic data and diet and water and exercise. Yeah. So
and not just any water, not your tap water.
Yeah.
I've been educated on that.
Not your, you can't drink tap water.
How many 5G towers are on top of your water towers?
Well, like even like I'm like, it's just like lead.
That's a whole other show.
I mean, yeah.
Oh,
we live in a toxic soup. So you're right. It is
do.
a full-time job to educate yourself and to know all these things. The bottom line is, like, most of us can't do everything because we're one people, unless we literally made it our full-time job to make sure every aspect of our life is 100% perfect with nothing impacting it in a negative way. A, it's impossible, and B, we just don't have the number of hours in the day. So just control what we can control and be intentional and mindful with what is in that wheelhouse for us so that the other incidental stuff is less impactful.
Yep.
Love that. Mike Bomb. We can't all be perfect.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to
really
send that clip
hard.
to you.
Failed.
I'm going to send that clip to you, Dr. Christy.
Oh, you're going to repeat that back to me when I'm having a moment?
Yes. I mean, I get that too. Her and I, like, we're on the chat daily. Trust me, usually. With that, though, ladies, I just so thank you for your time. This has been, I can't believe we're past the hour. I don't want to hold you up. We're going to have to do a part 2. We'll have to come back after, Carolyn, you get your testing back.
What I would love, I'm always like a post things like, is Carla, like your regimen, like for exercise, that would be so cool. Cause I just don't know what the hell to do, quite frankly.
Yeah, no problem.
And I'd be happy to send Dorothy you my list of like the tests that I've taken and Dr. Christy, just your take on the balance of what you're talking about, the adrenal glands, and that's just interesting. I never even thought of that too, right? And knowledge is power. So I'll send that information to you, Dorothy and Carla. I would love your list of.
Perfect. What I can do is I can set us up in I will need your email address first. I don't think I have Carolyn's email address, but the rest I think I do. And then we'll do a email and go from there.
I love that too.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much, Dorothy, for the invitation. It's so nice to meet you both. What an honor to be on this panel with both of you, and great conversation. So I think we're serving a lot of people today.
Absolutely.
I learned a lot too.
And thanks to the people watching and Jeff for shouting out there. I love that a man came into this conversation. I absolutely love it. So thank you, Jeff. And I'm sure there's more out there that we're watching. So thank you. And don't forget, be unstoppable in all that you do. Give yourself grace. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself as much grace as you give to other people. And that could even be a major impact in your cortisol level right there. So with that, thank you, and see you same time, same channel next week. Bye for now.
Thank you.